Alright, hi everybody. Video number 2. This one, what I'm going to try do is walk through some very basic and simple Excel functionalities that can make your life a lot easier and somewhat more fun, especially when you're working with numbers. I'm going to use this as an example, just made up information about different customers, account managers, the dates the customers were acquired, and going all the way providing all these very basic business KPI indicators slash cost, revenue, profit. So the first thing that I find useful is when I'm looking at data like this, if you're looking at the costs, revenue, and profits, to be able to compare, it's easy to just it's easy enough to just look at this and see, oh, let's see what's the highest here. 39,000 seems to be the highest cost, and say 16,000 seems to be the lowest cost. But if you're looking across thousands and thousands of costs and across 1,000 different brands, then it's a lot harder to do. So one of the things I like doing is making data visual, making representations that help you without having to look at specific numbers. Just be able to tell that looks like the biggest, that looks like the smallest. And one of the easiest way to do this in Microsoft Excel 2007 is using conditional formatting. So I'll just go ahead and do this and then explain it to you. So what I'll do is just add data bars. Costs are bad, so I'll add a red color. So what this does is it basically turns this column into a bar chart, and each of the cells has a bar indicating how big the cost is with respect to all the other costs in the column. To be able to see these ranked from highest to smallest, all I have to do is click inside that column and then go to sort and filter, and then I'll sort largest to smallest. And now we can see what happens there. We have the 39,000 on top, the 16,000 at the bottom. We can do the same for the revenue and profit. For revenue, let's just do, revenues are good, so let's make revenues green. And we can have that there, and we can do the same thing where we say go sort the largest to the smallest, and we can see it makes sense that there's some sort of correlation between the costs and revenue, because they're both tied to the monthly volume numbers. So you can see the higher the number, the higher the cost, and the higher the revenue, if that makes any sense. And the smaller the number, like 2,800 units, will probably have less costs and less volumes. The last thing is looking at profit. How do you know which of your brands, which of your customers, which of your units are performing the best? We can also just do the same thing. For profit, what I'd like to do is it's a lot more useful if you're trying to drill into numbers to just display them by categories. So for this one, I'll say, let's see, if you have everything that's above average, I want it to be marked in green, and everything that is below average, I want it to be marked in red. So when you're looking at these numbers, you can just come here and say, bam, I want to focus on these three numbers, because those are where the red warning signs are appearing. The green ones are basically above average. Let's see. So that's one thing we can do. Now the data looks a little more visual and it's a little easier to digest. We can do one more thing, which is using a pivot table to summarize the data. To add a pivot table to data, all we have to do is click inside the data columns that you have, go to the Insert tab on the Excel command ribbon, and then click on Insert Pivot Table. Now pivot table, when you do that, this dialog box comes up, and it highlights the entire data as it recognizes it. You can step in and select data yourself if you want a subset of it, or you want to select something other than what the wizard selected. And then we want to put this pivot table right here so that we can actually play around with it. So one thing we can do with the pivot table is that we can get we can be able to interact with the data a lot more. Say we wanted to know how the different account managers doing in the various areas that they control. So I want to see account manager, and I want to compare them by profit. So that's a profit right there. We can go back to the ribbon and just format it as money, as currency, and we can also add the same condition of formatting that we just saw. Let's see, let's do which color? Let's do that color, and we can come and do the same thing. Say I want to see from the largest to the smallest. So Mike is a superstar. He is outselling everybody else. Wilson needs to pick up his slack. He's not doing as well as he should be doing. And then we can say, well, I want to see how the various brands are doing. The various brands owned by the various account managers are doing individually. And what you can see is that we have Mike, and then we have all the brands that he controls. We have Joe, the same thing. And you can also just say, I want to characterize the data by the brand and see how each of the individual account managers are doing, which is basically what we had up here, the brand and account manager. One other thing we can do is we can filter.